What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through today's six-game slate, a injury-heavy, potentially news-heavy portion of the NBA schedule, as we're dealing with a lot of teams in the midst of complicated schedules, back-to-backs, so on and so forth. On this slate, we have Orlando, Washington, Brooklyn, Houston, and Oklahoma City all on the back end of back-to-backs, and we have Dallas on the front end of a back-to-back. So a lot of potential stuff to track. As always, to do it with me is Mike Gallagher. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing great. Get a little news information bet. I get home from my hike, and I was like, all right, we need to bet this news bet now, and we did. Feel good about that. We had a little news thing yesterday, unusual. The Clippers PR thinks Nick Smith Jr. starting over Nick Richards. Hate when I get my Knicks twisted. So we got a good bet on that. So we always talk about knowing ball, but sometimes you just gotta know the information is the best way to win in NBA.
Yeah, we'll talk through the specific bet that Mike is referencing in a bit for those who are not subscribers to our props channel. In terms of last night, there was a bad report on Nick Smith Jr. starting for Charlotte that made no sense whatsoever. I assume that people bet against Nick Richards on that report, which led to a lighter line for us that you guys were able to move really quickly on and get a good bet out to subscribers for it. But there's so many different layers to the work that we do, and interpreting information and analysis is where there's a lot of edge to be had, and that's why we try to provide this content and leverage all the resources that Mike Gallagher puts into listening to all these different press conferences and whatnot. So let's get into.
Just to add one more thing on that too. The Hornets tweeted out their lineup, and this has happened before. There's been PR accounts that have got first names mixed up. So I was kind of on that pretty quick that was what was going on here. So this is one of the times where experience matters. So I've been really sad that didn't hit, but nice to see that one coast.
Yep. All right, let's get into the game-by-game stuff here. Let's start with Philadelphia and Orlando. On the Philadelphia side, still without Joel Embiid and Nico Batum. They've also listed some of the G Leaguers out. We saw on Christmas Day, Paul Reed get the start, really struggle with Bam Adebayo. It's been a difficult season for Paul Reed. Mo Bamba came in and played really, really effectively. It is a revenge game for Mo Bamba here today against Orlando. We saw really heavy starters minutes. Robert Covington went away, surprisingly, much to my chagrin. What are your expectations for Philadelphia tonight?
Yeah, I think they're going to start Paul Reed. But as you mentioned, Mo Bamba revenge. They're going to need the rim protection. Orlando #1 in rim points per game. So they don't even play fast. So their frequency of shots is so high at the rim, and they're going to want to get down there. Mo Bamba, as he has issues, but when he's on, he could protect the rim pretty well, better than Paul Reed can, in my opinion. So I think it's a Mo Bamba spot. He got over the revenge when things kind of went south with him in Orlando. So I also just realized I still have my sunglasses on from my hike. That was not intentional. I'm not trying to look cool. But anyways, yeah, so I think Paul Reed and Bamba split pretty evenly. Again, with the rim presence they're going to need on defense, I don't think we see a lot of small stuff. So the matchup's pretty bad. The Magic are top 6 or 7 in rim protection. So, it's not a great spot, but the minutes could certainly be there. And, hey, maybe they're a little bit tired. Played a pretty tough up-tempo game last night there as well. And obviously the easy part of this is Tyrese Maxey. I love the matchup. They've been getting killed. Orlando has been by on-ball guards. Transition defense is also kind of iffy. I think they're like 7th in the NBA. So sets up for pretty strongly for Maxey on top of just the big usage coming off a bad game. Actually coverboarded him for my matchups article today. So I'm really excited about him. Oubre played a ton. Tobias played a ton. Certainly expecting that again here. They are not in a back-to-back in this spot. So, yeah, those guys should be pretty busy. And then we'll see some spot minutes for the Beverleys, Morrises, and those guys. And I don't know about Covington. Maybe he comes back from the dead. They're going to need the wing defense, right? We've seen him kind of get his minutes more when they have big wings on the other end. Certainly applies here with Paolo and Franz. So I kind of think he comes back to life here, but could certainly be wrong.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance that Bamba starts. I think it's unlikely, but I think there's a chance that Bamba starts just after the performance last game. And as you mentioned, like that rim protection is even a little bit more necessary in the starting lineup as opposed to the backup unit. The starting lineup with Paolo and Franz, those guys attack the rim quite a bit in the second unit. It's really just Mo Wagner that is kind of a one-man wrecking crew in terms of getting to the rim. Occasionally Cole Anthony, but I think he might see a flip there. We'll see on that one. Orlando side of things, still no Markelle Fultz. Questionable tags for Jonathan Isaac, Joe Ingles, and Gary Harris. What are your notes or expectations for the Magic tonight?
So Joe Ingles has been hurt for, I think, almost 2 weeks now. I think 12-15 was his last game. So he's been sitting. Old guy, could miss again, but maybe it was back-to-back. It didn't sound like it was serious, so he could be back. I think Jonathan Isaac's injury was more maintenance. We saw him miss the last game. He's been listed quite routinely with this hamstring thing, so it feels like a maintenance thing to me. Again, it's Jonathan Isaac. He could always miss. And then Gary Harris, somewhat surprisingly, this is the first time his calf has been hurt since I've been tracking it, going back to like the Denver days for a guy who's hurt all the time. He has a lot of like abductor, quads, hamstrings, like upper legs, but not a history of calf injury. So this is a new injury listed with a strain. So pretty bad sign for him here. So I think he's probably missing. That would up Caleb Houston's minutes. They would have to maybe shift things around to get Chimu Okeke in the mix because they've been kind of slotting him as more of a 3. They made the slot him as more of a 2 now. Would obviously really help the other guards. Cole Anthony's minutes would be really extended. We've seen Anthony Black coming off a career-high game, really strong game, 23 points from him. Jalen Suggs rebounded nicely from returning from his wrist injury. Minutes-wise, didn't play great, but it's Jalen Suggs. But yeah, so kind of feeling all that out. And then the other thing is like, man, Wendell Carter Jr., we talked about this a lot yesterday. Just the minutes are not there. It's like really been annoying that he can't get elevated minutes. And I don't know, like, sure, maybe it's the good conditioning versus like game shape conditioning. Maybe that's what it is. But for a guy to still be limited off a hand thing, not like a soft tissue leg thing, very odd. And one of the most puzzling, it's like almost like Middleton-esque, right? Where it's like, man, he's still capped here. This is taking forever. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, Wendell's been a little bit of a slow healer, though, in the past on stuff, so not super surprising to me. Anthony Black, I just wanted to highlight, because if Gary Harris is out, that would certainly open up more minutes. We saw the most aggressive version of Anthony Black we've seen as a pro. 13 shots is honestly like as many shots as he's taken in some months. So do you think there's any carryover to that? Do you think we're starting to see a more comfortable Anthony Black, or do you think this is just kind of a one-off game that got the shot volume up in a way that you wouldn't expect it to be going forward?
Just a function of the matchup, I think. Let me pull up some of his like play type stats really quick, because I felt like a lot of it was like open floor. Hey, beat guys down the floor. He had like 17 in the first half, I think. Yeah. So just pull it up really quick, and I bet you it's heavy transition. A lot of jump shooting, 9 catch and shoot jumpers. So he has off ball game going there, and then play type stuff was 6 transition points, only 3 points in pick and roll handling. So there's a lot of off ball transition stuff, which is expected. It's kind of in his role.
Yeah, the big thing for him, though, is off ball is being a willing shooter. I mean, those looks are there for him every game if he wants to take them. It's just a matter of confidence and being able. And he was not known as a shooter kind of coming into the league. Yep. That was something that he was known as, something that he'd have to work on. So it is something that I'm monitoring just to see if the aggressiveness ticks up a little bit, because those shots are there for him in this offense. Like, teams are helping off him. That's the guy that they're going to help off of.
Yeah, really unguarded too, and that's for good reason, because people have to pay attention so much to Paolo, who's been, by the way, Paolo's playing great. About to put a cap on his best month as a pro offensively. With he should probably almost get close to 30 if he can kind of keep it going.
All right, Toronto and Washington. On the Toronto side of things, Garrett Temple listed doubtful. Honestly, did not know that he was on the Toronto Raptors and still in the league. So shout out to Garrett Temple, who I have often used in the grid games back in the day, in the summer when I was playing the grid games. Garrett Temple, a lot of him, but no other real injury notes for the Raptors. What do you got for me with Toronto?
I think Garrett Temple was actually on the Who He Played For on TNT this year.
Oh, nice!
Great.
I would have missed it.
I think so.
I would have missed it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that game so much. Anyways. Yeah, starting lineup talk. That's still kind of prevalent. Every single presser the Toronto beats ask about this, and they haven't been like floundering, but another bad loss. And they had some spots where it was struggling. We've seen Jakob Poeltl's minutes crater at times, and they kind of needed it last game, and he still couldn't kind of get it going. He should smash, right? How the Wizards are the best matchup for centers by a lot. Worst a team at limiting offensive rebounds, putback points. Second worst rim defense, like everything is there for Poeltl to smash. But Kenny, if he doesn't, maybe they go away from it. He's clearly on a shorter leash. They want to play Gary Trent for spacing. And then meanwhile, A+ spot for Pascal Siakam, team's leading rim scorer. He dropped, I think, 39 against the Wizards earlier this year for a season high. His drive stats are coming up a little bit again. He's been really ebb and flowing it with the drive stats, but he's kind of trending in the right direction. Certainly, Scotty Barnes' role is really strong. Great matchup for him too here. And now, taking out Kuzma for maybe smaller stuff. Probably Bilal getting in there. Could see their defense being even worse. Despite how Kuzma's not a great player, but yeah, awesome spot for them. And should mention the Raptors defense has been terrible this month. 25th overall this month, and then 28th in half court defense. So this is probably the best game environment from a total point standpoint for me.
On the Wizards side, you mentioned Kyle Kuzma. He's listed questionable with a right quad contusion, and DeLon Wright is listed out for rest. He returned just last night, so they're not going to play him on a back-to-back. What are your notes on the Wizards tonight?
Yeah, not surprised DeLon after missing a month and a half with the knee sprain. It was kind of expected for him to sit. Minutes were pretty good. 13. They did really cut down Landry Shamet, but it didn't affect Ty Stones and Jordan Poole. They've been almost immune. This has been a couple weeks going strong here. Did you have something you wanted to add there?
I was just going to say, this is what we kind of expected coming into the season from Washington, was that they would really run a lot of Jones, a lot of Poole. I know people from a best ball perspective were excited about both of those guys getting big opportunities for minutes. And we didn't think that, this guard depth that they had would really impact things, but they seemed committed during the early part of the season to play DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet a bunch. And it really kind of impacted these guys. I'm still skeptical because the Wizards have just, kind of shape-shifted during the course of the season, but it's a really good sign. Now, it's a really good sign that they cut down Shamet over Wright. It's what we still don't know is what is the intended allocation to Wright, just generally, because first game back, 13 minutes, then he sits the next day. We have no idea. If it's still going to be 18 plus minutes for DeLon Wright, then Tyus Jones is going to have a hard time keeping the ceiling that we've seen of late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then just they love him for on-ball defense. Before he got hurt, he was their main on-ball defender for good reason. That's been his role his whole career. So and then the other note here is Gallo not listed. Looks like he's on track to play his first back-to-back game of the season. We'll see if he gets added. We know the Magic's notorious for this, right? Where they just add, whoops, we forgot.
I think this is going to be a clerical error, but we'll see on that one.
We'll see.
Okay.
That's all. He plays a lot of minutes anyways. And then other than that, so Kuzma really quick. This is an injury over the weekend. We saw him get dinged up, missed some time. I think it was the Warriors game. And then I don't think they listed him yesterday. So just a bruise, but could certainly sit him. This team's 5-24. Definitely a chance to sit. And as I mentioned, if he sits, I'd feel very confident Bilal Coulibaly gets a start.
Okay. Let's move to Milwaukee and Brooklyn. This is the game that we were referencing earlier from a news perspective. We'll start on the Milwaukee side, where we get the questionable tag for Giannis, which due to right calf injury management, somehow in some weird way, I feel more comfortable with Giannis questionable tags than I do with probable tags, just based on history here. But we'll see how this gets moved during the course of the day. Still without Jay Crowder, what are your notes on Giannis tonight?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a lingering / injury from last month. He's been listed with this calf injury before. He's actually wearing a sleeve for a couple games about a month ago, like November 18th, 19th, something like that. It's just a matter of, did he aggravate it in the Christmas game, or is it just a game off? He does get a management tag, but either way, anytime you're having a soft tissue leg injury for a guy that plays this many minutes and has this kind of effort, there's a good chance he sits. So probably get the GTD. The Nets now sitting players out probably makes it a little more likely to sit him here, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a great feel, but again, this is not a made up injury. He's dealt with it before, so definitely could. And then, again, he just plays so freaking hard. The minutes are so high this year, man. He's playing 37, 38 on the reg, 39 on Christmas. So I think it makes sense to sit him. But again, and should mention too, if he plays. We saw this little foot tweak he had. We had the probable tag. We were all freaking out. We took a minute and a half of his projection, and we played it under, and we just lost it because he had free throws in the last 10 seconds. But they've been playing him full whenever he's tagged.
Yeah.
So it's just something just wanted to note. If you did want, we love betting in the injury news, like I said in the open, but wouldn't want to do it here.
Yeah, and third consecutive game in New York City, essentially with Brooklyn, and after back-to-back games in in the Garden. So the Bucks have not had to travel very much around the holiday, which is nice scheduling for them. Obviously, if Giannis is out, Bobby Portis is the guy who's seen the big role increase in the past. I know that we've talked a lot on the show about how they seem intent on keeping him off the bench just so he can continue to accumulate bench stats essentially for the sixth man of the year. But he's the guy who would get the biggest kind of bump in opportunity. Chris Middleton, Damian Lillard, and Brook Lopez all would benefit as well. But who else do you see benefiting from Giannis being out from a playing time perspective?
I actually think Andre Jackson could start. They've been kind of leaning to starting him and then pulling him out real quick. I think they like the Pat Connaughton situation off the bench, although Connaughton was injured for a little bit. Could see him being there. So that's something to watch. But I think they want to start Jackson to kind of keep Connaughton behind Malik Beasley and just knock out Chris Middleton really quick. The minutes are back. We've seen 33 a couple games now. He's been playing great. He ran a lot of offense late in this game. He looks great. So, kudos to them for working out. And then I've been saying for weeks now, the bottom, it could drop out on Malik Beasley. It did last game, and it could going forward. Obviously, with the way they've been getting wrecked with his defensive assignment, it's pretty thin ice, but the upside's there offensively. But he's on notice right now.
How is Reggie Bullock not a Milwaukee Buck? I do not understand it still. All right, let's move to Brooklyn. So Brooklyn lists out Nick Claxton due to left ankle sprain injury maintenance, Spencer Dinwiddie due to rest, Cameron Johnson due to right knee sprain injury maintenance, Ben Simmons and Lonnie Walker are still out, and then they list Dorian Finney-Smith questionable with left knee soreness. So mass rest spot, second night of a back-to-back for Brooklyn. What are your notes here?
All right, let's start with Mikal. We bet Mikal unders and probably should have bet more than points because we've seen routinely there's a couple things going on here. So excuse me for a second. So Jacques Vaughn has talked about Mikal getting worn down for weeks. I've talked about it on the show for every time they're on the slate. We've been waiting for it. Last back-to-back, they said they have another one coming up, and they'll look at resting guys. So you got that. We've seen the rest. We talked about who's out. That's there. And now we've seen Mikal, who has this Iron Man streak. It's I think he's the only one behind AJ Green, right? He's a modern day NBA with the rest. He doesn't miss games. And so I think there's a chance he goes out there and plays, call it limited minutes. There's a couple ways it can go. We've seen the first quarter, get him out, and that's it. Definitely on the table. But
that was May 9th of last year, by the way.
May 9th. Yep.
For the game logs, it's May 9th from last year. Played the full first quarter, 12 minutes, and then did not play after that. I remember being terrified as he was playing the whole first quarter because we were assuming he was going to play very limited in that game. And it was a little bit of a sweat because he played the whole first quarter, but then he did not return after that.
Yep. But I did want to note the new rule change here. There's that new, you need to play 20 minutes for the 65 games to count. You get 2 freebies though. So I think there's a chance he plays 20. So, most of the first, then get him out at halftime or somewhere close to that. I think that could be on the table. And then they could just cut him down. Like I've been saying, they've been talking about how worn down he was. He had a 5-game slump and they just talked about the road trip. They went on this big West Coast trip. Jacques Vaughn has, as I've been saying, has been talking about his team being worn down. And then he just played 40 minutes in a game they really needed to go down to the wire to beat the Pistons there. So, I mean, you've got the history, you've got the coach, you've got the big minutes yesterday, you've got it already being a rest spot. I don't know. I feel really good about this Mikal bet that we took. And I mean, if it's still out there and it's not totally new, I would take more, honestly. I feel pretty good about him being pretty limited today. And then just to cover, go ahead if you want to, and we can cover the rest.
So from there, if we assume, so the 3 iterations you've laid out of what you could expect from Cam or from Mikal Bridges tonight would be scenario 1 is the best case scenario for if you're taking unders on him is he plays a quarter and then kind of moves on because that's what we've seen before. Scenario 2 is he, and Prox is noting Mikal's been pulled everywhere now. I think there were enough people in our Discord sort of figuring out where we're going with this and hammering it. Scenario 2 is that Cam plays to that 18 to 20 minute mark that you kind of need to qualify for a game. And then scenario 3 is that he just plays kind of limited minutes on the whole instead of playing like 35, maybe he plays 28. obviously scenario 3, things can run tighter. You're more up against it because they're losing usage and whatnot. But scenarios 1 and 2 look really good for the unders that we've bet previously. Yep. They are very limited, though, from a roster perspective, with no Claxton, no Dinwiddie, no Cam Johnson, no Ben Simmons, no Lonnie Walker, and possibly no Dorian Finney-Smith. So even if they were to limit him, who else are they playing, and in what quantity are guys playing? I referenced that May 9th game last year, and it was against Milwaukee. Oddly enough, it was against Milwaukee. Oh, wait, sorry. I said May 9th. It was March 9th. I'm sorry. I misspoke there. But yeah, it would be a playoff game if it was May 9th. March 9th.
Bubble year.
So they started in that game. They started Nerlens Noel, Mikal Bridges, Seth Curry, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Joe Harris. The only player that played more than the first quarter in that game was Nerlens Noel, who played 18 minutes. They had 7 guys available on the bench, and they played Patty Mills, 31, Jaron Sharp, 29.5, Yuta Watanabe, 29, David Duke Jr., 27. Cam Thomas was coming off the bench then. He played 26. Drew Smith played 22. So similarly shorthanded tonight. What would your expectations be on how we see them handle things? Because it's really difficult to project when you've seen this weird game, which is an outlier box score from like any other game you'd ever see in the NBA. How are you thinking about the Nets tonight in terms of the reserves as well?
And we should also note the last game, they listed out Noah Clowney, Derek Whitehead, Armani Brooks, and Keon Johnson. They are not all listed today. They're all going to be active for this home game. So that's another sign that there's rest coming here. So, yeah, let's talk about the rotation. And should mention, actually, I think there's I know a lot of people are like, oh, man, Cam Thomas could cook here. I don't know, man. They might cut his minutes, too. He's been playing a lot. He did get benched a little. He's been getting benched a little bit here and there, namely because the starting unit, which I've been talking a lot about, they have a league worst minus 21.4 net rating among the lineups with 100 minutes. So, again, there's kind of a chance that Cam Thomas, he's like really wide range of outcomes. They could just like let him go ham, but they might also manage him a little bit. So, yeah, from like a DFS standpoint, why not take a chance? From like, hey, I'm either betting an over or under unless you're betting an alt, like, you're kind of rolling the dice a little just to cover that. Yeah. So I still think he's going to start, clearly. Again, and should actually mention one more quote here. Jacques Vaughn mentioned that they're going to look at it, which was another hint rest was coming. Like they were going to look at the lineup in the new year or maybe just before, which again, like it was quite clear they're going to rest players today. Okay, so let's talk about who and how they're going to handle this rotation. I think Dennis Smith Jr., who's been limited.
Before you get going there, I just want to highlight, with the G Leaguers available, I count 13 players available, assuming Dorian Finney-Smith is available. If he's not, I don't
12. Think he's going to.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're down to 12, let's say. That's still a lot of players to be able to spread minutes around to. It's not a situation where they're down to like 8 or 9, and we know for sure the guys that are available have to play a lot.
Yeah, and then even some guys who are like not G League players are still not even playing, like namely Harry Giles, and Jalen Wilson, who was pretty good in Summer League. So, okay, rotation here. So I think DSJ starts. He's been playing pretty well. Minutes have been limited because the guys ahead of him play pretty good minutes. So I think he's starting. He'll have, I think, Armani Brooks and maybe Keon Johnson. Probably unlikely Keon's out there. But they got Armani to fill that. Cam Thomas, I think Armani plays behind him. They're kind of similar gunners. Obviously, Cam Thomas has way better handling. So I think that'll kind of cover the 2 guard spots. Mikal hard capped. I wouldn't be surprised if Royce O'Neal fills in behind him, or they could see Jalen Wilson fill in there as well. He's kind of got a 3-ish space, little one dribble drive game like Mikal was when he was younger. And then Dorian Finney-Smith, who I think sitting. He's been listed with this knee thing for a little bit. So I think he sits. Royce would probably start for him in that scenario. And then they have Trendon Watford, who they really like for additional handling too. You're taking out, that would probably be more second unit. I don't think they need the handling with Mikal in the first quarter. But I would expect we're going to project Dorian Finney-Smith in, but I think he's sitting, as I've been saying. So Royce and Watford are handed most of those 4 minutes. Maybe they dig into the Derek Whitehead pool. He's got some size as a small ball 4. He's more of a 3, but I could see that going that way if they like really cut it down and play the young kids. And then center, obviously Daron Sharp. Matchup sucks, but we've seen him cook when he starts. The minutes have been pretty strong. No reason not to play him more. And then they've been talking about wanting to play Harry Giles. They said that if not for Nick Claxton and Daron Sharp, they would have tried to find minutes for Harry Giles. Hey, no Claxton today. So I think Harry Giles next in there, and then Watford, Noah Clowney will kind of fill in. So as you said, they've got bodies here even if they do fit Dorian Finney-Smith.
What would the line be that you'd set on players that eclipse 30 minutes for the Nets tonight? If I set it at,
I got you. I got you.
If I set it at 2, I take
the under.
You take it under on 2.
No. Well, it depends. If Dorian Finney-Smith is out,
yeah,
then I would be looking at Royce. I think Royce would be a really good bet to beat that.
Okay.
I think Royce. Yeah, I would say like if Dorian Finney-Smith is out, which I'm expecting, Royce I would say is like pretty close to a lock. I could see him playing a ton. Then I don't know about DSJ, man. Like they got guard depth. Yeah, I would set the line at 1.5.
Okay.
I don't feel good about. I think Cam Thomas is 1.5. Juiced.
I was thinking I'd set the line at probably 2.5 and just see from there, because the candidates would be Cam Thomas, Dennis Smith Jr., Royce O'Neal, and then I think you could make a case that Sharp is a candidate, an unlikely one, just because they have depth at the position. He fouls a lot. The matchup's bad. Yeah. But if they really like, Harry Giles has limitations in terms of how many minutes he can play. So if Giles is only able to play like 18 or whatever, there's a chance that Sharp could eclipse 30. But those are the main guys that I'd be thinking of here. And then I don't think there's anybody on the bench that really separates from maybe Watford. That like, if Royce doesn't, Watford probably does type thing if Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Because if they're like managing Royce down, you might see Watford play a bunch off the bench, like we saw Patty Mills play a bunch off the bench in this example here. But those are some of the names I'm thinking through.
I should actually mention, I could be tripping, but I think in his Blazers days, I think that Billups started Watford for the Giannis assignment. I could be tripping, but I feel like they've started him for somebody at some point over this time. So
yeah. Okay, let's move to the Knicks and Thunder. On the Knicks side of things, no Mitchell Robinson, no Jericho Sims, otherwise healthy here going into Oklahoma City. What are your notes on the Knicks tonight?
Yeah, sorry, I got my boxes open here, but yeah, not much to say. I'll just say that their defense has been pretty good. We talked about how that small sample early when they were getting wrecked was against like all the good offenses, and they've kind of normalized now. Their rim defense has been not great, but fine. So the matchup's kind of neutral. They're still playing pretty slow. Not a great matchup for SGA and all those boys, but yeah, the matchup's actually pretty good for Isaiah Hartenstein. The one weakness for the Thunder defense is they are a little bit vulnerable to giving up offensive rebounds, and that's kind of one of his areas where they could kind of hang their hat. Had a little bit of success against the Bucks, who are really good at limiting that. So I think Hartenstein could actually benefit a little bit. But yeah, I know Jalen Brunson's playing freaking awesome right now. And then that's kind of it. Randall, we'll see probably a lot of J-Dub, and then I expect Brunson to get the Dort assignment.
Yeah, much more difficult matchup for Brunson than what we've seen the last few games, having consecutive matchups against Milwaukee that are just the best matchup for him possible to sort of get. So more difficult spot tonight. Thunder have not submitted yet. Perhaps that's coming in the next few minutes here. But blowout win last night against Minnesota, handled their business in a big way. I would not expect to see anything really on the injury report.
You can just come back to it in a couple minutes if you want to do it.
Is there anything that you're thinking we might see?
Somebody we saw. I think Giddey could be managed coming off an ankle. Okay. They limited him, and I'll actually. Let's just wait till we get that because I got some quotes we can come back to if that works.
Phoenix and Houston. On the Phoenix side of things, Bradley Beal is out. Nasir Little listed as available. Nurkic probable with personal reasons after missing the last 2 games, and Josh Okogie listed probable here. So, what are your thoughts on the Phoenix side of things?
Yeah, so they should be pretty good to go here. Nurk was supposed to return for Christmas, they were saying, and that was actually my bad if you read Christmas matchups. I kind of wrote that too early, so my bad on that. But he should be back. There was reporting Sunday afternoon that he would have been. He's targeting a Tuesday return, so expect him back. Certainly need him. Eubanks got killed as it was Chimezie Metu Day, so I would expect a little bit of a longer leash, especially against Houston. Really good interior. Şengün is freaking cooking. And we should get their injury report here in a minute as well. So a lot to cover. But yeah, the Kevin Durant stuff, Woj reported that it wouldn't really report it, but it was just, it was a standard like Christmas. Let's talk about a star player who's in turmoil, boilerplate stuff. So, but he did play well. He did play millions minutes, I should say. He played kind of bad, but his defensive efforts hasn't been there. There was a hot mic on. It wasn't a hot mic. It was a mic. They caught Devin Booker like yelling at Chimezie Metu for not getting back after Luka kind of picked his pocket. So yeah, things kind of aren't right in Phoenix land, but keep an eye on if Eric Gordon starts. Again, they may need size. I wouldn't be like shocked if they just reward Metu and start him. We've seen him start at the 4 before, and again, he needed size here, so I wouldn't be surprised. His team's playing terrible on a 3-game losing streak. Like, it's funny. I look at all the graphics for this game, and it has like Luka and then Grayson Allen. It's like, oh god, you're down bad, and then that happens. But anyways, minutes should be really strong. Devin Booker's role has kind of shrunk just a little bit. That gives me like maybe some concern, but kind of not worried. Grayson will play a ton. Okogie listed with an ankle. Should note that he had a hip strain that cost him some time, including a probable tag last game. And then also we should note that Nazir Little did that in-out hokey pokey. He got ruled out for a knee injury. He was previously listed with the mask that he's wearing, so he's not listed with a knee thing. So kind of keep an eye on that. He might get booted just because they need to reward Metu for his pretty strong play there. And yeah, I think Eric Gordon could come off the bench. Some commentary about him being unhappy with his role too. So yeah, things are Phoenix needs this win. Not a great matchup. Houston's best transition defense by a lot. They're awesome in that role. But we could see huge, again, like team down bad, play your best players, huge minutes kind of a narrative. I could see guys going off, and should mention, Dylan Brooks possibly missing, and we got Houston, and Brooks is out, so hit Houston now.
Yeah, it's been a minute since a Kevin Durant team got through January without turmoil. Been a few years since that's happened. I'm interested to see, 30 years from now, how Kevin Durant is remembered. Because I think it's going to be a lot less than people think now. I think he's going to be a little bit forgotten when it comes to eras of basketball with what Kevin Durant has done with his pro career. I mean, I think he's going to be like George Gervin. Like, that's like kind of
that's cold. That's cold.
I'm just saying, like, what are people really going to remember from Kevin Durant other than responding online and joining a super team?
Hey man, drinking Scarlett Johansson's bathwater will not be allowed as slander on this show. That's too good.
All right, so let's move to Houston, then we'll go back to OKC. Houston's injury report: Dylan Brooks is out. Tari Eason listed questionable here. Second night of back-to-back for Tari Eason. He continues to be a huge difference maker for this Houston Rockets team. 26 minutes last night, continues to cut into Jalen Green. As we've noted before, whenever Eason, his minutes come up, it's at the expense of Jabari, Şengün, or Jalen Green. It's been Green more so of late. The Dylan Brooks injury should help that from a Jalen Green perspective, just in terms of like, there's one less body to, that they have to fit into the rotation. And I don't think there's like a clear defensive stopper that's in the Dylan Brooks mold that they would like say like, oh, role wise, we need to put in a defensive player there. It would be Reggie Bullock, but I just don't think they view him like that or going to elevate him like that. So I think Jalen Green's minutes are a little bit more secure tonight. What are your thoughts on the Rockets?
I would push back a little bit. Again, if Tari's out, definitely a lot safer. But just last game, he played terrible last night, by the way, Jalen Green. But Aaron Holiday and Tari Eason were both like 18 second half minutes compared to Jalen Green's like 7. What was the number? It was like single digits in a close game, right? So he's like not safe at all. But he, maybe he kind of gets going. And I think, like we talked about Reggie Bullock, they love Aaron Holiday, man. Like they clearly love this dude. Ime Udoka has used him to guard like the highest of high end players on ball. I think he starts. I think now that we're getting this Tari Q tag again, I think they're going to throw Aaron Holiday at Booker to kind of start things here. They put him on like bigger guards all the time, so that's kind of my lean right there. And then we'll see Jayshawn Tate fill in kind of regardless. His minutes would come up decent bit if Tari Eason misses. Maybe we get a little bit more Amen as an off-ball guy, certainly more Jeff Green minutes. Jabari Smith's minutes have been really good here. We saw the 40 minutes he's hitting consistently. It's been like 34 more his last. He's been 34, 37, 31, 42 in his last 4. So really strong minutes there. And then Şengün, oh my God, the role is so good. 2 huge games in a row. He has more front court touches in the last 2 games than Nikola Jokic does. Just an immense role, great matchup too. I almost cover boyed him, but I'm always wanting to cover boy Şengün anyway, so it kind of tempered my expectations there. But so Aaron Holiday benefits, Tario benefit if he plays. Should mention too, he's got this Q tag a lot and it hasn't cut his minutes down, so they're not really managing him. I think they're just going to make sure he's okay.
All right, let's go back to OKC because they fouled as well there. Just listed Lindy Waters and Olivier Sarr is doubtful, and Keontae Johnson and Yusman Jang, the G Leaguers, out. So clean injury report there for Oklahoma City. J-Dub and Josh Giddey, who were questionable yesterday, are not on the injury report right now. So things looking good there. Any other notes on OKC?
Yeah, so we saw a lot of bodies yesterday in their rotation as I pull it up here. Some of this was garbage, but most of it wasn't. And that was designed by Mark Dagnall. He said we have a back-to-back coming up. I want to get guys more minutes. He didn't like how Giddey was coming off an injury, and then J-Dub was sick. His minutes were cut a little bit there. So, yeah, they said they're going to look at playing more players. So I think that this rotation could be annoyingly deep, which takes, a lot of upside off of pretty much everyone besides SGA. Lou Dort played great to kind of keep his minutes pretty steady. But, I expect a lot of players to be thrown out in this game. Thrown out as in playing, not like thrown out of the rotation. But, I think you could see a little bit more size. They like Cameron Williams. They use him as a small ball 5 a little bit more, even in the matchup against the big Wolves. So, but I think this I haven't looked at the minutes yet here, but probably gonna throw like 12 guys minutes today.
All right, let's move to Cleveland and Dallas. Cleveland's injury report remains full. No Evan Mobley, no Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell questionable, Karis LeVert questionable, Sam Merrill doubtful. So very full injury report once again. What are your expectations for the Cavs tonight?
Yeah, it sounds like Mitchell's going to be back. Went through shoot around. He's been out for like a week and a half here. And then, of course, if you want to be for sure, look out for the let him know Donovan Mitchell tweet on his Twitter. But and by the way, I call it Twitter. I don't play I hate when people, and I'm doing it now, so I know that. But people are like, oh, is it Twitter or X? And they like keep doing it. It's like, just call it Twitter. Who cares? Anyways, so Strus minutes have been up. His touches have been way up. Jared Allen's been playing a ton of minutes. His front court touches have really spiked. He was about like 13 above his average in the last 3 games without Mitchell. Great matchup. The Mavs are really vulnerable around the basket, even with Derek Lively playing pretty well. But I would expect Mitchell, Max Strus, Okoro, and Dean Wade with Jared Allen to 5. Of course, Luka, if he plays, we'll get to that. Who guards him is a tough question. I actually, you would think, it's for sure Okoro, but they actually use Dean Wade as the primary on SGA, and they have a little bit of similarities to their game with their downhill. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dean Wade actually guards Luka, and then Tim Hardaway Jr., assuming he plays, gets the Okoro assignment. I think it's a little bit cleaner for how they want to defend. Just to note that. And everything else I think is pretty straightforward. But and then does Donovan have a minutes limit? We saw John Collins, almost a 2-week illness. He got limited for multiple games. A little bit different because Mitchell's such a high minute player. But I could see a monitored minutes tweet from Underdog coming from a Bickerstaff quote.
Any notes on LeVert with the left knee tendonitis?
Yeah, still on a minutes limit from everything we've seen here. I'd expect that to continue for a while. This knee thing is been bothering him. Probably going to be a bit before we see those like super spiked minutes there. He's been injured. Like he's been running pretty good health wise since the Cavs got him. But don't forget his Nets days, he cannot stay on the court. So I would expect him to be managed for pretty much till the All-Star break, honestly.
All right, Dallas side of things, still no Kyrie Irving or Maxi Kleber. Luka Doncic questionable, Josh Green questionable, and Tim Hardaway Jr. questionable. They're on the front end of a back-to-back here for Dallas, so that's notable. What other notes do you have on Dallas?
Yeah, so let's talk about Luka. I talk about this left leg thing, man. He's got this left calf, this left quad thing that has been bothering him since like the All-Star break of last year. Multiple stints now, he's been listed with this left quad. So big concern. And I don't really like the Josh Green upgrade, honestly. It sounded like he was out. But now Tim Hardaway Jr. getting an illness tag, maybe that makes him a little bit more likely to play. Luka has like generally played through these Q tags this season. I wish Fan was here for the exact stat, but he's played more often than not. So leaning in, but again, like they're running this dude into the ground, man. Like 44 minutes on the reg, playing full second halves all the time. So I kind of think he's going to play, but certainly wouldn't be surprised if he sat out. They're home today, on the road tomorrow. So maybe they sit him in Minnesota tomorrow. I don't know, but that'll be one to watch. If he's out, I think they might just, and it's assuming Tim Hardaway Jr. is in. I think they might just go back to going big. Should mention after the last game, Jason Kidd said he was going to start this lineup of Grant Williams off the bench for quote a couple games. So he was planning on starting small-ish, Grant Williams on the bench, and then not at 4. He was planning to do that today, but now that these injuries are coming here, maybe he changes. To keep that in mind. Derek Jones Jr. locked. Dante Exum locked. He's going to start regardless, even when they get Kyrie back. Then Derek Lively, we saw him return from an ankle injury. Really big workload, 32 minutes, heavily involved in screen and roll actions. He was playing a ton before. He's running hot here. Matchup sucks, but just from a playing time standpoint, I think Derek Lively's in a really big spot, much to the chagrin of our best ball shares, which are Lively-less.
Yeah, thankfully, Jalen Duren getting back healthy will help ease some of that pain. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you're enjoying the content that we're posting here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel by the end of the NBA season, so we'd like your help in achieving that goal. If you're interested in checking out our coverage behind the paywall, you can check out myself and Gary Hartman breaking down this DFS slate on Establish the Show Behind the Paywall tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We also still have the holiday sale up. That'll be up throughout the course of this week to get 25% off any of the NBA packages that we offer at Established Run. It's the only time we run a sale all year. We generally don't run sales or discounted prices because we feel like we just give people a fair price, and that's the expectation. We're not going to kind of give people up sale prices, then discount them and like mind trick people. So this is the one time of the year that if you want to get access to us at a reduced price, it will renew at the full price for if you're doing like a weekly package. So you'll just get that reduced weekly price or reduced monthly if you get it for 1 month. But heads up there, establishedrun.com/subscribe-NBA for more details there. Tomorrow on the show here at 2 p.m. Eastern, it will be Gary Hartman and Mike Gallagher. I'm going to try to work myself off on Thursdays on the show going forward. So Gary's going to step into the host role. You'll still get all of Mike's intel because that's the most important thing of the show. But a schedule note there. And then as always, if you're enjoying this content that we're putting out there, and you want to help us circulate that content, you got to feed the algorithm. The way you feed the algorithm is you smash that like button. It helps feed our families, allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every slate to set your season-long lineups, your DFS lineups, make your spread bets and prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algo. Nom, 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 nom. I'll see you on Friday. Mike Gallagher will be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody.